Get back to your own kind. Sir Robert Peel, the founder of the Metropolitan Police Force. Hello. I'm not going to say this is going to be a short video. Whenever I say that, it turns out to be like 25 minutes, half an hour. Something a little bit weird happened here the other day. As I'm speaking to you, it is the 2nd of November. It's a Sunday. Yesterday was a Saturday, which is protest day. People do like to come down and shout at the empty buildings around here on a Saturday for whatever reason. The protest that was at the Supreme Court was to do with the Supreme Court's decision about what a woman is. And the people came down here essentially to demand that the Supreme Court uphold their decision on what a woman is, rather than just pretending they didn't do it, which is what's going on. Which is fine. I have no problem with people coming down here and shouting at an empty building. But what I do have a problem with is what happened next. So let me set the scene. You've exercised your democratic right, freedom of speech, and then you're going to march somewhere. You really want people to see you. So from here, you're going to march somewhere. Logically, where are you going to march? The Supreme Court is just over there. You could go up Victoria Street, you could go to Victoria Station, but what would be the point in that? Especially on a Saturday. You could go down there, like go visit MI5. There's no point in going down there. You could go across the bridge to Waterloo. You could go up here, Downing Street, Trafalgar Square. If I was on a protest march and I'd finished shouting at the building, I would go up there, Downing Street, Trafalgar Square. Iconic, the best place to go. The buildings are still totally empty, but it just feels better, and I think that's the most important thing. But they didn't do that, no. Where did they go? Yes, that's right. They went to Scotland Yard. Yes, I created a little bit of internet drama the other week, didn't I? Because I had a very simple question, which is just, why on earth would the Digital ID March be brought past Scotland Yard? And it did create quite a lot of drama. But I'd sort of decided to leave it, just to leave it until yesterday, the 1st of November, once the people had finished shouting at the Supreme Court, the march came up here, straight past Scotland Yard. There's the camera that I was talking about the other day, by the way. I can't see it. There we go. There it is. Why on earth did they come past here? Well, there was also a counter-protest against them. And where was the counter-protest held? It was held here at New Scotland Yard. And I was just like, dude, what on earth is going wrong? And why are all of these protests at New Scotland Yard? The police are the public, and the public are the police. Peelian principle number 7. My favourite. So you may remember that in my video I was questioning if they're doing facial recognition with that camera, do they not have to announce that they're doing it, put up a sign or whatever? And I found out something extremely interesting, and I've cracked it. I've solved the Enigma code. Of course, I went to Charing Cross Police Station and I spoke to a young boy who was impersonating a police officer, and he said, and I quote, "As far as I'm aware, our facial recognition is only done through the vans. I'm not aware of any facial recognition schemes that we do through buildings." Well, he was wrong. Very wrong. So what they do with the vans is called LFR, Live Facial Recognition, where they are comparing faces against a known database of wanted people, and supposedly if it's not you, the machine just forgets about you. It forgot you ever saw you, you know, straight away, no problem. But from buildings, they can do a thing called retrospective facial recognition, RFR, and they do not need to tell you that it's happening. They have actually a long policy document all about it. It just happens to be 33 pages. Retrospective facial recognition is used by the Metropolitan Police Service as an after-the-event capability to help officers establish who a person is or whether their image matches against other images held by policing in order to help progress investigations and operations. And I think you'll agree that that is fairly vague. To say to help progress operations is another way of saying however the hell we want. They have a little graph that basically is trying to say that they try to always capture the images with the lowest expectation of privacy. Level 1 is actually the lowest expectation. Level 1 is an image taken of a compliant subject in the custody environment, so somebody who doesn't mind being photographed and they're in a police station in custody. Level 2 though, police controlled overt CCTV, so it's when you know there's a CCTV camera there, you willingly walk in front of it. It basically just means that it's open season for capturing data in the public realm for the study of human animals, and there's not much you can do about it. If I, as a private citizen of England, were to start capturing biometrics for psychological study of human animals, it would actually be illegal. The reason they don't want me doing it, not just me, but the reason they don't want anybody else doing it, is because it actually would give you what are basically like superhuman abilities of insight into London's protest movement. I will give an example. I could quite easily get my mate Claude to write me an app to collect biometrics from protest footage. I would stand somewhere in order to get as many faces as possible in high definition, and then afterwards at home I could extract still images from the footage every 10 seconds to isolate the faces of everybody on the march. I could create a biometric signature of each unique face until I had what the police would call an image matrix. This doesn't tell me anyone's names or where they live or anything like that, but what it does do is catalogue all of the unique individuals who attended that particular march. And that in itself doesn't do very much unless you do it for every single march, every single time, and then the magic will really start to happen, because patterns will emerge. If a unique individual throughout 2025 was only ever attending left-wing marches, and then suddenly in 2026 started to attend only right-wing marches, you could look at their social media interactions and discover the type of interactions or content that caused them to flip. This would tell you how to flip people. If a new, unique individual turned up at a march and they'd never been to a march before, you could study what sort of content online finally convinced them to take that step to physically join the movement. Therefore, you could learn how to build a movement, and conversely, if people stopped turning up, you could work out what discouraged them, which means you could actually destroy movements. If I had enough data from all of the protests that have happened for years, I could quite easily, at any particular protest, I could spot the agitators, the people maybe who are normally at left-wing protests but happen to be isolated amongst the right-wing protest. I could spot them immediately. I could spot undercover police within the protest if I happened to have biometrically captured and created an image matrix of all of the active police officers in the area. You could actually code an app that worked with augmented reality and some smart glasses that basically put green and orange boxes around people's faces as you walked amongst them, allowing you to spot the agitators, spot the undercovers, spot the ones who need encouragement. You know, there's a reason that doing that sort of thing is highly illegal, and they do not want us to do it, because it would be so easy. Which means, of course, it's easy for them. There is something that you may have noticed, though, the left-wing protests, whether it's, you know, Black Bloc or Antifa or whoever it is, they always cover their faces. And that's not because they're super intelligent, they know what's really going on. It's because they are led and trained by some very, very senior activists. They've known about this for a very long time. Therefore, the left-wing movement is extremely aware of how the police track them, work them out, and plan to oppose them. So they cover their faces. This is something actually I think would have been very beneficial at the Digital ID March. Everyone should just cover their faces, because it's a perfect opportunity to gift the Metropolitan Police beautifully organised data on the study of human animals. Oh, there's a wood pigeon amongst them. He's off, he's been rumbled. Get back to your own kind. But you see, it's an evolutionary arms race, the protesters and the Metropolitan Police. When the very well-trained protesters cover their faces like they have been doing for a decade, the police have to evolve a way to find out who they are and track them and trace them and study them anyway. And how do they do it? Well, it's really quite simple, and it's also possibly one of the reasons they like to come down here for protesting, because all they end up doing is using their more expensive toys, something that I worked out, I think, 8 years ago, but something that I'm going to make, I think, the next video in this series about is, of course, the Stingray. These little boxes at the bottom. The little boxes at the bottom in between are for the lights. I don't know if you can see, it's got lights on it, which means it's electrical. It means it's connected by wires. I mean, the things that I think about were like, it's plugged in. Plugged into what? Is it plugged into the MOD? See, I don't think it is. I never saw them dig up this road to lay down cables. However, any evidence, Sherlock Holmes, of any digging going on attached to what building exactly? Oh, New Scotland Yard. I believe this is electronically attached to New Scotland Yard. They're probably quite interested to know who it is who comes anywhere near this thing, and I believe that it's possibly even a Stingray device. How easy it would be to have this read mobile phone identification data feeding straight into Scotland Yard.